Welcome back to the Sound for More channel. It's Leo speaking. I had a request from a subscriber to do more of an introductory video on how to use Drumbo from a MIDI point of view inside AUM. So that is what I'm going to do in this video. It is a little bit more of a beginner tutorial. So for those users which are already familiar with Drumbo and how to use it inside AUM, of course, this might not be suitable for yourself. For the others, of course, I hope you find this useful. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. So we are inside the AUM. So let's click on the plus sign and let's create first a MIDI channel and then also an audio channel. And let's actually create a couple of more audio channels as well. Let's click on the plus sign on the MIDI processor here for this MIDI channel. And let's search for Drambo. So we go on the search and let's activate my USB keyboard and type the array for Drumbo to search for Drumbo. So as you can see, we have Drambo MIDI effect. So let's click on it and select it. Now, let's open it up and let's maximize the window. As you can see, we have track 1 selected. Hopefully you are familiar a little bit with Drumbo. And here it shows you that you have your standard MIDI to CV module or rack. And then you have your MIDI output, which is set to go out on channel number 1. Now, if you go to channel number 2, you find the same setup, but the MIDI output is set to channel number 2, and so on for channel number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this is a nice shortcut to create effectively a setup very quickly using a template for which you have a MIDI output already assigned for in terms of channel already assigned for each of the track. Of course, as you click here on the track number 1 here to go through the track property, if you scroll down, you will see that it is accepting MIDI input from any channel. Okay, so it is set to input all and also to MIDI channel all of them instead of having one in particular. Okay, so I can therefore connect it to a keyboard, the AUM keyboard. So I click on the left hand side here and I select the MIDI input, Drumbo, and MIDI FX, and here I'm going to connect it as a MIDI source to the AUM keyboard, which I can show, of course, clicking on the button left here on this keyboard. Okay, and as you can see, when I click on keys on the keyboards, you see activities up here on the left hand side of the Drumbo icon. Okay, so that is just a standard basic setup of Drumbo as a MIDI processor. Now let's go to the first audio channel. Let's click on the plus sign. And again, let's search for Drumbo here. And let's choose the first one. You can see there are 2 Drumbo 8 outputs. And let's choose the normal one, Drumbo. Now let's connect it to this Drambo Midi processor. So we click on here on the left hand side. We go under MIDI input for this Drumbo instance, and then we choose, instead of the keyboard, we're going to choose the Drambo MIDI effects, which is this instance here of Drumbo. Okay. Now, if I press a key here now on the keyboard, it will go through this Drambo MIDI processor here, which is also connected to this Drumbo instance on this audio channel. Now, to prove this, let's go inside here Drumbo. And let's add, for example, on the generator, a FM operator. Now, let's press some keys. Now, you will hear some sounds, and the sound is coming out from this audio channel on which I have this Drumbo instance. So you see activity here, and you see activity up here as well. Now, let me show you. Let's filter the channel that this instance of Drumbo is receiving from. So if you scroll down, you will find a channel filter here in AUM. At the moment, they're all active. So you can say, click on none, so that none are active. And indeed, when they're not active, you press on the keys, you don't hear anything because it's set, this instance of Drambo is set to receive from none of the MIDI channel. Now let's establish that this instance of Drambo here on this audio channel receives only from channel number 1, like so. And now let's press some keys on the keyboard. Now this works perfectly, right? Now let's go back inside this Drambo MIDI processor, and let's, where it says here MIDI channel, let's change that to 2. Okay, now let's close that and let's press some keys on the keyboard. As you can see, there is no sound coming out from this instance here of Drumbo because it is set to receive only on channel number 1, as you can see here. Now, if I was to change these to 2, and now I'll try again. So this instance of Drumbo, this MIDI processor, is receiving from any MIDI channel, but the track which is active at the moment, which is track number 1, is set to send out MIDI messages on channel number 2, which of course is connected to this instance of Drumbo, which is receiving from MIDI message and filter them only for channel number 2. Hopefully this makes sense. Now let's go revert this back to channel number 1. Now let's go to the next here audio source, and let's search for Drumbo again, and let's choose Drambo 8 output, like so. Okay, now let's disconnect this keyboard here from the MIDI processor of Drumbo, and let's connect it to this instance on Drumbo, these 8 outputs. Okay, so let's connect the keyboard to this version of Drumbo here. Now, because this is an A output, I can go to this audio channel here, and I can select multi-bus audio unit instance, and I can connect it to a multi-bus audio unit instance. Right, in this case I have the Drambo 8 output, which is this one, and you can see that it comes up with this background effect, which shows you that is a different type of instance in terms of how it is instantiated. Now, where you see the number 2 here, click on it, and here you can choose the plug-in bus output. In this case, is set as external output number 2. Okay, so now let's go to this instance here of Drumbo. And let's go to track number 1. Let's click on the plus sign. Let's search for audio output. Okay. Let's select it. And now let's go here where it says output, and let's select exit output number 1. Now, if I click some sound, nothing happens, right? Now, let's go also to this instance here. And you can see that it is actually the same, right? External output number 1, which is mirroring what you have here, right? Okay, now let's go inside back here, and let's add here a processor, and let's choose an ADSR. And then let's add, actually, let me do these in the other channel. So let's remove this because that is incorrect. Let's go inside here, and then before the audio output here, let's choose first an ADSR, like so, and then let's choose also an oscillator. Let's choose something like these super saw. Now let's press some keys. Now, look at what is happening here. The output is coming out from this channel, which is channel number 3. You can see the activity down here. Right, and this is set to receive from external output number 2. Okay, so if I leave that as it is, by go back inside this instance of Drumbo, and I change these to number 2 here, like so. Now, if I press some keys here, you see the output coming out from this instance instead of this one. Okay, and let's reduce a little bit the volume as well. And also here reduce these as well. So if I was to change these to external number 3, like so, right, you will now have output coming out from this version of or instance of Drumbo. But it's coming out from these one, even though the MIDI signals are coming through this version of Drumbo because it is connected to this keyboard version. Hopefully that makes sense. And of course, the keyboard here inside AUM is set, if you click on here, to send on MIDI channel number 1. Let's say that we set this to number 2, and let's go inside this version of Drumbo. Let's click on the track properties as well. And where it says MIDI input, let's leave that to all channel. Let's set that to received only to channel number 1. Let's press some keys on the keyboard. Nothing happens because the keyboard here is sending on MIDI channel number 2. Now let's go back to this version of instance of Drumbo. Let's set the channel to 2, like so. And you hear sounds again because now it is allowing the receival of MIDI events from channel 2 only, for which you have the AUM keyboard sending those messages through that channel. Of course, you can reverse that back to 1, and then you can go back inside this Drumbo instance and set these to any or omni-channel, then of course it works again. And as you can see, the exit of these is number 3, which as there is nothing else connected, the output will go through this audio channel. Again, if I was to change this exit output to 3, you see the audio going directly from this instance into this channel, from this channel into this channel, is captured through this multi-output number 3, and then it's coming out from this channel. Hopefully this makes sense. Now, let's show you how to further use Drumbo with multiple audio sources. So let's remove all this channel like so, right? And let's create 2 audio channel again, but this time let's add something different. And the first one, a grand piano, and on the second one, let's choose something else, like for example, I don't know, ISM. It doesn't really matter for what preset, but just to give you an example. So let's set this first audio source where we have the grand piano to receive only on channel number 1. So we click none here and we set the channel filter to 1, and we connect it, of course, to this MIDI effect of Drumbo here. And we do the same here, but we change the channel filter to 2. So this instance receives messages only on channel number 1, and this one only on channel number 2. And they're both connected to this MIDI effect processor of Drumbo. So let's click inside here, right? So let's insert some notes onto this clip that will be played. So and just choose something very simple, right? And actually, what we can do as well is if we connect the keyboard to this, like so. At the moment it is set to channel number 2, which is going to ISIM. If I change this to channel number 1, I have the piano. Hopefully that is becoming clearer. Now, let's resize the window of Drumbo so that we can see the recording button here. Let's click record and play something. Doesn't really matter what, but just let's play. Let's click stop there. Now let's go back here and click play. Now let's go to the second track here and let's record something else again. And that is a chord because I'm going by steps. Now, if I click on record to exit again. Go back at the beginning, click play. You can hear both the piano and both ISM that pad playing. Hopefully that makes sense, and they're both the first track is sending to MIDI channel number 1 and the second track to MIDI channel number 2. Hopefully that makes sense. Now let's expand on it again. So let's go to the menu here, click new, and then we say 8 tracks MIDI to CV. So we reset this. Okay. So now let's click record here, play there as well, and then let's click the play on AUM, and now he's playing here, and let's record something. Let's stop, let's go back to the beginning and remove the recording and click play. Oops, I have not set the right template here. So let's set these to MIDI, and then let's choose MIDI output here, MIDI out, and we set these to channel number 1. Okay, and let's play. Okay, now let's go to the second track. Let's do the same here as well. A MIDI output module to MIDI out, but this channel to channel number 2. Okay, let's click record here. Okay, play. Let's click stop, go back to the beginning, let's click play. So this is a quick way that you can use to record real time inside Drambo. And again, if you want to restart, click new, and then you can restart. You can choose also Midi Sequencer here, and it gives you back the standard template that you have seen as you first created the instance of Drumbo. And again, here you can now click recording here, click play. There is actually playing now, and then record. Track number 2. Now, Drumbo has also, if you click here where it says 120, you can also set the metronome to be on recording, of course, or you can change that. And you can also set to have a pre-roll. The reason that you don't hear that is because Drumbo at the moment is used as a MIDI effect, as a MIDI processor here, and therefore this doesn't output any audio. However, we could remove this one. We could create another audio channel here and instantiate Drumbo directly from there, like so. Now let's make the connectivity again, like so. Let's ensure that we have a brand new project here. We go to new here as well, and we choose Midi Sequencer now. Okay, and now we have established the right connectivity, yes, but let's set also this channel number 1, yes, channel number 2, this one, yes, perfect. So we go back here and let's click play and recording. Of course, I need to link the keyboard to send the messages directly onto this Drumbo version. So there it is, and now we can properly record again. And of course, you hear the metronome now. Let's click stop now, and we have recorded. And in this case, you also heard the metronome. Back at the beginning, play. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Hopefully it made sense for you, for people which are starting to use Drumbo inside AUM as a MIDI sequencer and also as a multi-output app or audio source. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.